We have our friend Andrew Lazar. And Andrew, tell us where we are.
Okay, well, we're located in the Galleria.
Well, what are we?
Oh, well, we're the Hungarian Museum. And we have been in operation since 1985. 1985 is when it was incorporated, and it was founded by foresight of several gentlemen, mainly Otto Friedrich, who spearheaded the whole movement, Reverend Yeshta, who was the pastor at St. Elizabeth's Church, and Frank Dobosh, and a few others that I don't recall. But the actuality of the thing that it came about was that they wanted to have the capability of preserving and keeping memorabilia and Hungarian artifacts that they realized was being thrown away. People weren't keeping items and so on. So they thought that this was important to preserve these things. And so that was the impetus to start this whole thing. And then we got incorporated. We got, back in '86, that we got our 501c3 category as far as being a nonprofit organization, and we have operated like that ever since. The reality is that they also wanted to set up an exhibit. So Reverend Nyeshta loaned the basement of St. Elizabeth Church so that we could have an opening there. And we had a tremendous cleaning effort because that really needed a lot of cleaning. And so a few dedicated people, among them my wife, my mother, Maria Friedrich, Magdalene Mesaros, Jim Pavlish and others, and of course Otto. And we put our backs to the, what the hell is that called? Grindstone.
Backs, nose.
Yeah.
Some body part was at the grind.
Right.
You worked hard. You busted your tails.
Well, we did. We actually did. We actually worked hard to clean it up, and we managed. And the reality is that when we had, I was getting items for that exhibit, just about 99% of it was loaned from various other people. So they're household artifacts, items, this and that, and so on, whether it was embroidery, pottery, porcelain, paintings, what have you. And so we had the opening, and it was a big success. The following year, we had another the second exhibit in 1987. The problem was that in the meantime, and unfortunately, Reverend Nyeshta died in 1987. Early on, and so, but we went ahead and still were able to do the second exhibit, and we had a very nice cooperation from Allen Memorial Museum in Oberlin, and they loaned us a cope of King Matthias. This was dated. This is a vestment, kind of a cupola or a cape, and it was from 1488.
Wow.
So this was an amazing piece, and that is shown as part of the exhibit that we're going to be having for the 40th. Afterwards, we had to leave St. Elizabeth's. They were doing renovations, etc., so they didn't have a place for us
Now let me
anymore.
ask you here.
Yeah.
So at St. Elizabeth's now in the basement, they have that area where it's like a museum for their church. Is that
That's-
where you guys were
yes,
then?
we were in that
Okay,
whole area.
pretty small
Yeah,
space.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that.
Or
It was-
are you expanding it to the whole?
Actually, what it was, that entire hall.
Okay.
Yeah, it was that entire hall.
Okay.
Where they have tables now set up, and
Yeah.
they have events, dinners,
Okay.
etc. So it was that whole area. Anyway, so what happened is that we had to move out, and we had to put whatever few items we had into storage, but then we had various exhibits to keep us in the public. We had it at the Natural History Museum. We actually had a weekend, and they put on a nice show where, among the other things that we showed was crafts, etc., Hungarian artifacts, folk art, so on. We actually had a dog show. Hungarian dog breed dog show,
Really?
and it was on the stage, and it was a big success. And we kind of put that together. And after that, we had an exhibit at the Beck Center, and that lasted for about a month. And we also had a special exhibit at the Crawford Aviation Museum.
Yeah, okay.
They had like family days and family traditions. So we showed Hungarian crafts, etc., and we had an actual exhibit there. And then Otto came up with a fantastic idea. Otto Friedrich was really a mover, and he was the spearhead throughout this whole thing. And he came up with the idea, well, why can't we have a museum in a mall? And he came, Richmond Mall was close to where he lived, and so he talked to the people, we got space,
Wow.
we had to clean up.
Get some
and-
foot traffic that
Yeah,
way.
That's right. Actually, it was still, unfortunately, it was kind of on a decline, but they still had a lot of stores. So we had that foot traffic, which is not a destination point. Surprisingly, a lot of people just wandered in and looked around and thought it was great. We also had some news stations come out and actually do interviews and showcased it, which was really neat for us. But anyway, what happened is that we had Reverend Alex Demetsky, and he was the pastor of St. Ladislaus Church in Lorraine. And he loaned quite a few of his items that he personally had collected over the years. And he also, since the church had closed the museum that he had in the basement there, he loaned some of those items to us. So we had a real nice opening. And that afterwards, we had the first Vintner dinner, which we are now going on the 29th one.
Wow.
Through all these years. There was some interim when we didn't have any because we didn't have a place to go, et cetera, and we were in storage. But anyway, it turned out that it was a really nice ongoing feature where we were able to do exhibits. I was much younger then and more pliant to be able to do more exhibits, per year. One of them, and we had the dog breed exhibit again, but this was a full display
wild.
on the Hungarian dog breeds, and we had another dog show. And so Andrea had gotten together various dog breeders who bred Pulis, Kuvases, Komondors, Vizslas, and so we had a real nice show in the middle of the Richmond Mall on the stage, and that was really fun. People loved it, and we still have comments on that.
I never knew the Hungarian dog connection.
Yeah, oh yeah,
That's I'll have to check into that.
yeah. So we had, afterwards, the Richmond Mall was going through phases of doing renovations, and so prices were increasing,
Sure.
and so we couldn't afford it anymore. We had to go into storage again. So in lieu of that, we had exhibits like in the May Company window downtown.
Oh, yeah.
And we also had an exhibit at the Playhouse. We had an exhibit at we had an exhibit at Notre Dame College.
Okay.
And we had an exhibit at the John Griselli Library at John Carroll University. So we were able to keep us in the forefront. The nice thing, and I must mention that the Lake County Historical Society kind of took our plight to heart, and they gave us rooms at their facility in Kirtland in the Holden Arboretum. We're close to the Holden Arboretum is, and we were there for almost a year where we had our exhibit. So they were really wonderful in that span of time. Otto then again found a place to have a museum. This was in Euclid Square Mall.
Okay.
Again, it wasn't, best of situations, but there was still foot traffic, there were stores, etc. And so we were there from 1999 to 2003. One of the neatest exhibits that we had there was that one of the board of the director members, Mr. Zala, Laszlo Zala, he worked for Nassau, John Glenn Sea Center, and he was able to get a participation of Nassau putting on a space kind of exhibits, etc., include a mock-up of the space shuttle,
Wow.
which was pretty large. It was about 8 feet long and so
Wow.
on, so it's kind of neat. Space suits, etc. And what was highlighted is their working with the Hungarian Space Agency. So it had a Hungarian
Yeah.
motive to it. So that was really nice and drew a big crowd. The other exhibit that we had, which very memorable, because it comes down to what we currently also have on display, is that it was the 1000th anniversary of King St. Stephen and his coronation. And we had Hanan Manufacture, the porcelain factory in Hungary, sent us a statue. They actually donated a statue of St. Stephen to us. And they also loaned us a replica, porcelain replica of the Crown of Hungary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was a big success. However, one of the things that was interest that one of the Hungarian members of the community, businessman, saw the crown and he actually bought it. He bought it from Head End, and then he turned around and loaned it to us.
Nice.
And his son is taking on that, carry on the legacy, and we still have that on loan, and it's on exhibit. So we still have the statue, and we still have the crown, and it's currently being exhibited here in the museum. So
I got to see that last time I was here. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a nice piece.
Really
Yeah,
historic.
Yeah, it is. And it's a great replica because, if you see photographs of the actual crown
Yeah.
and so on, I mean, the enameling detail and so on is just superb. So anyway, after that, after we were there till 2003, Otto had found a location here in the Galleria. And because, again, Euclid Square Mall was kind of closing down and having some problems, so we moved from there and we had an opening in 2003. So, but we were upstairs at the time, so we had like about 6,000 square feet, a lot more room than we currently have, probably twice as much. And so we had a wonderful opening. Actually, Mayor Jane Campbell was there at the ribbon cutting ceremonies, and she was very congenial, and it was a great event. Again, a lot of people came and saw that. So through the years, again, we've been in storage a few times, but we always managed to be able to have some legacy and some capability to have a location, an actual physical location, where we're able to continue our effort, not only to preserve, but to show and to educate. One of the reasons that I like doing the exhibits is that not just showing off objects, but to educate people about what certain things are. And because we're not a fine art museum, we are a general museum where we can do historical items, we can
Right.
do pottery, we can do porcelain, we can do folk art, we can do fine art, we can do a whole range of things that maybe some other museums are kind of restricted to, not being able to do. And so this is why we've had a whole slew of exhibits over the 40 years.
So let me ask you this. So you've been curator since the beginning, right?
Since the beginning, yeah.
And
yeah.
you do it for this huge salary check you're cashing every year, right?
Yeah, well, basically, that's probably why. or maybe because I'm silly, and it's an all-volunteer
Exactly.
organization.
So who's the
We've been doing
sponsor
this
of
from
this?
day one. All the board of directors, including the volunteers, everybody else that is associated, working for the museum is not working. It's on a heart-based volunteer basis.
Yeah, all passionate volunteers.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Want to
Yep.
keep the Hungarian traditions and inspire a new generation and all that stuff. So, I know you have a lot of, it's not just displays here. You have events here, you'll have dances, you'll have speeches. What are some of the things you've had over the years?
Well, one of the most unusual things that we've had is that we had a lot of government officials from Hungary come by and make presentations and talk about how great we are, etc. And so this has happened pretty much throughout the time that we've been here at the Galleria, both upstairs and downstairs, and even when we were at Euclid Square Mall. It has been a very nice acknowledgement that we exist also in Hungary. And so
Yeah.
we're known back there as well. The other thing is that we have certain events. Vintner Dinner is one of the ones that is a main fundraiser for us. And we've had that, the first one, like I mentioned, we had in 1987 when we were at Richmond Mall. And then several years we weren't able to do it again because we didn't have a place to call home. However, over the years, we've had 29 of these Vintner Dinners in various locations.
Wow.
As nice as Canterbury Country Club, Shaker Heights Country Club, Pine Ridge Country Club, even locations at the museum where we had the opening here, and then we went to like the Sausalito Cafe at the time, etc. So it has been a good fundraising event for us, and we're continuing that tradition. Aside from that, we have lecture series. So we have people coming in here giving lectures, talk about historical items, talk about maybe their books, etc., things like that. And it has a whole gamut, a wide range of subjects that we had. covered over the years. As a matter of fact, one of the ones that really comes to mind was kind of neat. It was this gentleman from Hungary. He's a sailor. He sailed on Lake Bay Balaton, and he had the idea that he's going to sail around the world.
Really?
And he did. He had this smaller sailboat, and he sailed around the world. And so he gave the presentation about that. That was just unbelievable.
That'd be a good one. I want to get to historical stuff in a second, but there's two aspects of this museum that are really special. I want you to talk about both of them. One is the library, and the other is that, sometimes you think a museum, it's okay, you look at this stuff, and it's cool, you take some pictures and all, but you've got some modern technology. I got to play with some of the interactive kiosks before, where you can kind of self-direct and see things that you couldn't maybe have on display. So tell me about the library first.
Well, the library, over the years, it has grown, obviously, from something that we had at Richmond Mall, where the librarian actually copied items from books and had that as part of the library, to actually where we have now about 7,000 volumes of books.
Wow.
So, yeah, it has grown quite a lot. And it covers a whole range from history to folk art, architecture, immigration, etc. So, and it's basically used as a reference. A lot of people come here to do research,
Sure.
both on background and also the history of the diaspora, which spanned, so many years, from the late 1800s to now. So that's as far as the library, and the librarian has been the same person also for all
Really?
those years, Magdalene Mesaros, and she has done a wonderful job, and she is, again, a dedicated spirit, and again, a volunteer. The other thing is that as far as what we have and what we try to do is to modernize and not just show objects, but actually to have an interactive capability, or maybe even enhance. So when I have an exhibit, that we can enhance it by having more things in there that they can learn more things about. So we have like a 42-inch monitor that we show items on, videos. We have a 52-inch TV that they can sit down and view all kinds of videos from Hungary, from fine art to folk art, etc., depending on what the exhibit is. And then we have two touchscreen computers, which again, Andrea Lazar is the one that maintains this, and we have software interface that she uses to be able to put together the experiences that we have. And again, they try to reflect whatever exhibit that we have. So it's always linked so that we have a greater aspect to not only the objects, but the educational experience, and maybe even give a more in-depth view of those things.
Well, that's a great segue, because obviously the objects are really cool. If you look around now, like behind you is a symbolon. How many people have actually got to see it, and
Right.
how do those people play that with
Yeah.
all those strings and all? But the history, the Hungarians in Cleveland, there's so many who came here. The whole Buckeye Road neighborhood, and St. Emmerich's and St.
Right.
Elizabeth of Hungary. Now, you cover some of that history, don't you?
Oh, yeah, we do. As a matter of fact, one portion of the museum that we have it, which is on the it's on the west side, and which is behind me on the other side of the wall, is basically has to do with not only immigration, but the immigration into Hungary by the Magyar tribes, and all the way to the current situation that we have as far as the various organizations that we currently have, etc. But it does show various segments, obviously not all of it intact. So a segment of it has to do with the crown, like I mentioned about St. Stephen. The other segment has to do with our Hungarians involved in the American Revolution.
Sure.
And Colonel Kovács Fabrizi had written a letter to Benjamin Franklin offering his services. He was working for the Prussians at the time in their cavalry, and so he offered his services. He came out to America, and he was part of the Polish regiment. So he became part of the Kosciuszko regiment, and he trained American cavalry units, and he died at the Battle of Charleston.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so anyway, that was the other aspect of history, and then it goes on into our involvement, Hungarian involvement with the Civil War. If you know our history, in 1848, 1849, Hungary revolted against the Habsburg rule, and it was put down with the aid of Russian troops by Tsar Nicholas. And a lot of the officers had to leave because a lot of them were persecuted and even executed after it was over. So a lot of them emigrated to America. And so they lived over here. But when the Civil War broke out, they offered their services. They enrolled, and there are several of them who received the Congressional Medal of Honor. Actually, there's one that received the Congressional Medal of Honor, and many of the others were high-ranking officers in the Union Army. Then the next portion of the exhibit that we have has to do with the immigration, and from late 1800s to the 1940s and 50s. So it covers a whole range of the initial immigration, the ones that came out after the Second World War, and also the ones that came out after the 1956 revolution. And then we go into the current organizations that we have, like the Hungarian Scouts, Hungarian...
Well, let me stop you there
Yeah.
a second. We can't gloss over 1956, and we're just, a block away is Cardinal Mindszenty Plaza.
Right, sure.
And it's,
Yeah.
what a connection here. And in Cleveland, there's, many Clevelanders probably pass by that all the time, and they see that one of the most powerful statues ever of the freedom fighter and all. And
Yes.
so you cover that here some, and I'm sure you take some of your guests, your international guests, when they come here, say, hey, let's walk a few hundred feet.
Definitely. We always do that. We always take them over there and show them the plaza, which is a real nice thing, and it was under the auspices of Mayor White that they
Really?
came into fruition, so it's been there ever since. So we've had the statue, the 1956 commemorative statue, and also the statue of Cardinal Mindszenty. And then as we go down the west side of the museum, we also have an exhibit about the Cleveland Hungarian Agricultural Garden, which is a really important aspect of commemoration and the legacy that the Hungarian immigration had left here in Cleveland. That was put up in 1938. That's when the opening was, and it's still ongoing, and for the efforts of many people, dedicated people over the years, especially Ernie Mihai. When it was the down years that we had, he kept it going, and he was very persistent in maintaining it. And thanks to him, it's now in good hands. Carolyn Bullock used to be the president of that organization. She just stepped down, being replaced by somebody else, Mr. Kovac, I believe. But it's going strong, and it's they have
I have to say, it's one of my favorites.
Extended, additions onto that.
Yeah.
So it isn't like it's a stagnant whatever. It has been added to.
I mean, it started with the Franz Liszt
Yes,
bus.
that's right. Yeah.
Just last year, I think they added Bartok and Zadali.
That's right.
And all the stuff up on top. But then you have the lower half with the
which they added the historical elements.
It's a great garden.
And, it is.
It's
So
and the Liszt concert every year, the free concert.
Oh, that's right.
You know.
Yeah, you have to mention that, of course. And Andrew's the one that does the MC on that. But anyway, one of the exhibits that we've had, and this is going to be like a smaller section, and I'm going to have a variety of exhibits every several months, although this one has been on for almost a year, I must admit. But a gentleman from Canada, Toronto, I believe, he contacted us, knew about the Hungarian Museum here, and he had an extensive collection of memorabilia in regard to the 1848-1849 revolution. And medals, lithographs, postcards, etc., etc. So he donated those items to us, and we have an exhibit on that. It's the Edward Minocki collection. So
yeah, I love the left side or west side of the museum. It's always there, the history and stuff.
It's history.
And
that's right.
over here on the right side, you do
and then on
the
east side we have the gallery that we call the gallery, and that's where all the current exhibits. So in other words, that is a changing exhibits that we have 2 to 3 times a year.
So I don't know if even people of Hungarian heritage here, some of the young people now especially, know about Hungary and Cleveland and first of all, how huge the Austro-Hungarian Empire was, the Magyars and all.
Yeah.
But then in Cleveland, they drive by University Circle and you see Kossuth.
Yeah.
and you drive down Lakeside and you see the freedom fighter,
Yes.
Carlo Mazzenti, and this is here in the Galleria. And the Cultural Garden, that is one
Yes.
of, by far, the best. And St. Emmerich's and St. Elizabeth's of Hungary, they're always doing stuff and all. This is a way, and maybe on May 10th, you're going to be able to do this to people who aren't just, into their Hungarian heritage and don't know about it. What's going to happen on May 10th?
Well, what's going to happen is that it's actually an outreach to the community at large, not only Hungarians, but the American Cree community as well. And so we have contacted so many people. Andrea's put out flyers on that, and hopefully we'll have a large turnout. And what it's going to entail is that we're celebrating 40 years, that we've been here in existence for 40 years. And we're going to have a program. It's going to be emceed by the artist George Kozbon.
English, Hungarian,
It'll
both?
be in English.
Okay,
Yes,
good.
in English, all of that, yes, definitely.
Good for me.
And we're going to have harmonia. Those have some special pieces that they will play. We'll have some members of the Cleveland Hungarian Scout Folk Ensemble performing folk dances, or a folk dance. And then we're going to reminisce. We're going to have a panel, 3 people, myself, Magdalene Mesaros, the librarian, and past president and vice president of the Cleveland Hungarian Heritage Society, Eva Subble, who was one of the initial starters of this museum. What we're going to do, we're going to talk about and give a short, concise account of the history and what has happened and transpired over the years. And it's going to be short. We're going to keep it so that people can come here, enjoy the music, they can enjoy the foods, the specialties that we're going to have, and also some of the wine.
Is there admission or?
There's no admission, it's free, and it's open to the public.
Okay.
Yes,
So if I'm Hungarian or have Hungarian roots, obviously
you should come.
I should come. But
And
if
you're
I'm not,
interested,
this
you
is,
still can come.
it's really the story of Cleveland and America, the people coming here,
Yeah.
bringing their faith and food and culture and all that. And, 1985 doesn't sound that long ago, but when you say 40 years, it's, wow,
Yeah.
it is. It's 40 years and you've been doing this. And how are I think the Hungarians are one of the most successful in getting young people involved. The Scouts are incredible, the things they do in the programs and all. A lot of groups are having trouble keeping the interest in some of the young people and all, but you guys seem to, and it's places like this that make it happen, all right?
Well, it helps. A place like this does help, and one of the things that the Scouts do is that they maintain the Hungarian language. And that basically is one of the requirements, that whoever is part of the scouting movement here, they have to speak Hungarian. So
It's not an easy language, I've looked at it. It's
Yeah,
not
it
like-
is an easy language, but the thing
Not
is
for me.
that they keep this, and the continuity is there, and that's why part of that is the success due to that, and they then have professed this interest in their background, their nationality, etc., and their heritage, and that is what it's all about.
So let's get to some of the specifics, and if I want to come down to this, it's free.
Yes.
You're in the Galleria here, the lower part. It's on May 10th. What time?
It'll start at 2 o'clock. We're going to be open from 2 to 5, and the actual program with the events and so on, entertainment, will start at 2:30. So be
And-
here by then, and you'll see the entertainment and the performances, and then after that, you're going to have some of the goodies and things that we have to offer.
So now we've got your better half, Andrea here, who's
Right, right.
another volunteer, another passionate volunteer who's spends way too much time down here. What do you have a title,
Well,
or
I
you
guess
just?
I'm the publicity chair,
Okay.
and I'm the whole publicity committee. I also, as you mentioned before about the multimedia, I've been doing all of that. We actually have 4 touch screens that I create these, what they called experiences, by the company that I use the software for. And I create those to enhance and give a lot more information and background to all the exhibits that Andy does. And so in addition to that, I try to do the publicity and try to keep up. We have a MailChimp newsletter that we send out every month. We have a Facebook page, and I keep that up to date, and I contact wonderful people like you to help us spread the word about the lectures and whatever events we have, the Vintner Dinner, and now in this case, this really big 40th anniversary. But if you just Google Cleveland Hungarian Museum,
Sure.
all of this comes up. We also have a YouTube channel, and we have videos there that also are the ones that I put there from things like this interview and some of the others that Andy mentioned that over the years, including back to one where Otto Friedrich, the person we've mentioned so far, so many times, he was interviewed years ago, and so he talks about all of that. We also honestly honor him in so much of what's going on today because it was really his spirit, this whole volunteerism that we're talking about. It's that passion that has been there from all that time, that he actually was able to get people interested in this whole project that has lasted 40 years. And, people keep coming on board. As some of us age out, other people do come. There's always hand-wringing about where are the young people,
Right.
what's going to happen to us. But over 40 years, we've always managed to have someone else come in and someone who kind of takes up whatever opening has been left by people who are no longer with us. So I think this has been such a remarkable effort when you think about a completely non-paid volunteer organization
Yeah.
for 40 years have kept a place. We have a space that's open to the public, a place to come and view things and learn things. And the volunteers are so passionate. When someone comes into the museum, they're so eager and happy to show them around, and they're knowledgeable. They'll talk about all the features that Andy talked about, that's on the other wall for the history. They'll look at the things that are in the center here that are examples of the embroidery and the really
the folk art, basically.
the folk
Yeah.
art objects and stuff. And people who love embroidery really appreciate that fine work, or someone who loves history, European history. We've been fortunate to be here at a time when we were putting up an exhibit closed on a Sunday. Man knocks on the door,
Yeah.
and we open it, and clearly we weren't open, but we let him in, and then Andy took him around, and he was from Korea, and he just
Really?
loves history.
See?
He just loves the national background, and so we spent a lovely afternoon with him in here, and that's not that uncommon. Someone who's interested in history, European history, there's a lot of it here. And some of those, especially another one about the immigration you mentioned, that Buckeye Road area was such a melting pot.
Oh, yeah.
And so, there was a Hungarian neighborhood, there were Polish, there were Italian, there were all kinds of other ethnic groups. And, maybe in Europe they didn't get along, but in Cleveland they do. And especially like the cultural garden you
Exactly.
mentioned, that was the whole theme of that, the peace garden, that these cultures have something in common, that they want to keep their heritage alive.
Peace through mutual understanding.
Exactly, and their background, their history is so important to the way that we live today. So we don't want to forget any of that. And so all of that is here, and again, it's to the credit of every single person who's ever volunteered here for 40 years. The volunteers that allow us to be open. There are ladies and gentlemen who come here from 2 to 5, from 11 to 3, now 3 days a week, so that the doors can be opened. Nobody is paid. So
Yeah,
when you think
that's-
about people giving up their time, and also the people giving not only their time, but their skill set to manage and run this organization, we have presidents, we have vice presidents, treasurers, someone who invests our money. We have people who take care of the gift shop, ordering things and managing to talk to people about the consignment arrangement. All of those people are volunteers. So they've brought whatever their talents are and are willing to invest that in this museum so that we can go forward, hopefully way beyond 40 years.
Well, that's great. It's really a testament to you and the other volunteers. 40 years for you as curator and you as Jill of all trades here, and I'm looking forward to May 10th. And I hope the people who are watching this, whether you're Hungarian or not, come down because, like you say, if you're interested in porcelain or embroidery or history or just the world. I was a stamp collector as a kid, and I remember seeing the Magyar Posta stamps. It's how I started learning things like that. And it's just Hungary and the Hungarian heritage has played such a huge role in recent and ancient history. So you can go see the Crown, or you can talk about Rubik's Cube or whatever. But for now, we're looking at May 10th here at the Cleveland Hungarian Museum. And in the Galleria, it's very easy to find. There's a parking lot attached, and it's really worth a ride. So Andrew and Andrea Lazar, thanks for all you do with this, and we will definitely see you on the 10th.
Oh,
Great.
thank you. We look
Thanks.
forward to everyone coming to the party.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
All right.